What can I say about a slasher flick that plays into 70s movie stereotypes while also tearing them down? Well, a lot, actually. Believe it or not, I did a huge written project on the Death Proof movie while a film studies student, and my professor hated it, which I guess is fair-ish, since in 2012, Tarantino himself called Death Proof the worst movie he's ever made, but I want to argue otherwise today. Sure, Death Proof may not be the best Tarantino film. I'd probably give that honor to Inglourious Basterds myself, but Death Proof has a level of film studies catnip detail that I don't think any other movie has ever come close to touching. Here's why I love Death Proof. Right away, the cheesy posters and overall theme tells you to have low expectations. Like, this is a movie from the $1 impulse aisle at Walmart. Something that you'd go pick up and say, I'll give it a try for $1. And really, you watch the film, and the first segment has so many issues that you'd see on older film reels that were overplayed and or not stored very well. So you seriously question what year this movie is supposed to be set in. Well, the early part of the 2000s seems like a safe bet, as Jungle Julia uses a flip phone. So we're definitely watching a film set in modern day for its 2006 release date. But why have all the old video and audio glitches? Now, Death Proof is an odd movie. If you haven't seen it, it's basically about a stuntman that kills girls. That's where this movie gets amazing. I am going to go at this theory assuming you have watched it, so if you haven't, you might want to turn away until you've done so. We see lines going over the screen, audio skips, even jump cuts, which were originally experimented with to jar a viewer's mind, bring them out of the movie, and make them suddenly pay extra attention, because they've been visually told that something isn't right. Jump cuts were also unintentionally seen a lot back in the days of the old-style film reels, where if a theater damaged their reel and had to tape it back together a few frames later to save the print, you'd suddenly see a little chunk of the movie missing and it would throw you off. Either use of a jump cut really fits in perfectly with the thematic qualities of Death Proof. But have you noticed that most of the graphical choices only occur during the first segment of the movie? I believe that's because of our antagonist, Stuntman Mike. As his name suggests, Stuntman Mike claims to have worked as a professional stuntman in movies and television shows back in the 60s and 70s, which is why he owns the Death Proof mobile, which is a modified 71 Chevy Nova SS. Hold on though, didn't I just say the movie was set in the present? Why yes I did. But the first segment of Death Proof shows Stuntman Mike hanging around in the Texas Chili Parlor, subtly stalking Jungle Julia and her friends. While on the secret stalker mission, Stuntman Mike offers to give a third-party girl, Pam, a ride home, which she accepts, only to be brutally murdered by Stuntman Mike later. We find out that Stuntman Mike had pictures of Jungle Julia and her two friends in his car, confirming that he set out to target them specifically, and then we are given this insanely gratifying 4-peat death shot to fully observe and appreciate the gratuitous murders of all these young women. This is usually the point of gushing, where people remind me that I too am a woman, and so I should find this anti-feminist scene offensive. Bah! Anyone who says this is anti-feminist doesn't get the film. All of the movie visual issues we witness are because it's a low-key way to inform the viewers that we are in the midst of Stuntman Mike's world. He's controlling the scenario, and everyone is playing right into his trap. What does that have to do with the image problems? Well, because Stuntman Mike's heyday was in the 70s, and now he's a bored, aging man who's implied to be consistently out of work. And making the first segment of the film look like a bad print of a 70s film shows us that Stuntman Mike has all the power here. And he's murdering people for the sake of reliving the types of themes his old movies were about. In fact, car stunts, including massive wrecks, are so tied in with Stuntman Mike's way of life that they're said to turn him on sexually. Now, let's talk about segment 2. In the second half of the film, we're told it's 14 months later in Lebanon, Tennessee, and we start by watching 3 women who are shown in black and white film. We see things in black and white because stuntman Mike is nearby casing the ladies. A lot of today's younger viewers won't know this, but back in the 60s and 70s, it wasn't uncommon for actors to send out a lot of headshots while trying to get auditions. It wasn't like today's digital world where you can take a picture on your phone and email it to someone. Back then, you had to invest in hiring a photographer and buying physical copies of your image to send out. Color prints were very expensive, so many actors were using black and white photos instead, since they might need to send out a lot of pictures and usually never get them back. So, stuntman Mike is casting a new set of women, likely even taking photos of them without their knowledge, and to stuntman Mike, this is a casting session, and we already know that he's shooting 70s style movies in his head. That's why we're shown black and white imagery that ceases as soon as stuntman Mike drives away. Now, the switch back to color not only signifies when stuntman Mike leaves, it's when he loses control and the girls take over the film. Guess what? This group of women are all movie people too. Once Zoe Bell enters the picture, we've got 2 stunt women, a makeup artist, and what I believe is an on-call extra for a cheerleader scene. Funny enough, Zoe Bell gets described as indestructible, so it's established that she's a human version of the death-proof car. Then 3 of the ladies test drive a 1970 Dodge Challenger so that Zoe can play Ship's Mast, which is some kind of weird fetish game, and it's implied that she's done it a lot. Of course, stuntman Mike rolls out of nowhere, now in a '69 Dodge Charger, and chaos ensues. Stuntman Mike tries to kill the ladies. He thinks he does kill Zoe, and then he stops his car chase, tells the girls that was fun, and it seems like stuntman Mike is prepping to say farewell and take off, but instead he gets shot in the arm. And this is the greatest moment because it shows the true character of this tough guy who runs away like a little biatch. Finally, we get to my favorite part of the movie where Zoe pops out of the bush, asks the other girls if they want to go chase down stuntman Mike, and she grabs a freaking metal pole, jumps halfway in the car, and then proceeds to steal any hint of power that stuntman Mike had. Now, as gratifying as it was to watch the more prissy girls get killed in the first segment, watching Team Zoe chase down stuntman Mike, terrify him, and brutally beat him to death, assumedly, really takes all the cakes. We get one more old-timey glitch on the screen, but this time it's to highlight that the women have taken over, that this is their story now and they're directing an ending where stuntman Mike does not get to walk away. And this attack on Mike is not for the good of humanity. It's not to save future victims or to get justice. This is a cat and mouse game that these girls are happy to play and refusing to lose. My only real gripe with Death Proof is that I feel like the dialogue felt flat in a number of places, unlike in other Tarantino movies. Okay, not everything can be the Superman speech from Kill Bill. I get that. But for a movie centering around women, I really wish some extra effort was put into finding out how women actually speak to each other. For me, Death Proof felt like 90% of the conversation focused on boys and sex. Do girls talk about these things when they get together? Duh, of course. But those are far from the only topics of conversation. Although, while I hate how the girl-to-girl dialogue lacks the normal depth that conversations in Tarantino movies have, I gladly overlook it to experience the fantastic Zoe Bell own this film. And maybe, just maybe, that is the point of the male-centric conversations in Death Proof, to juxtapose just how brass lady balls are when you push a girl's buttons. That new girls, modern girls, will rock their sexuality and punch through anything that stands in their way or that tries to come at them in an attempt to force them into stereotypical roles, like victim or damsel in distress. Touché, Mr. Tarantino. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed enough to like, subscribe, and share this video. I've also got a lot of other videos on my channel that you are fully encouraged to go check out. Plus, you can find me on Facebook at Say Halo Goodbye, which is my gamer tag, or Twitter at _Fanily.